The phone sits silent on your desk, mocking you with its stillness. 3 days ago, she was texting you constantly, her words flowing like water, urgent and warm. Now, nothing. The digital void stretches between you both, filled with questions that gnaw at your confidence. Did she meet someone else? Did you say something wrong? The uncertainty feels like a weight pressing down on your chest, and every rational thought battles against the growing panic that maybe, just maybe, she's done with you forever. But what if everything you think you know about love and silence is wrong? What if the very absence that's driving you to distraction is actually proof of something deeper, more profound than the casual affection you've grown accustomed to? The ancient Stoics understood something about human nature that modern men have forgotten in their desperate pursuit of constant validation and immediate gratification. They knew that sometimes the most powerful emotions manifest not in grand gestures or endless communication, but in the terrifying pull toward retreat. The human heart, particularly the feminine heart, is not a simple mechanism that operates on the basic principles of cause and effect that we might expect. When a woman falls deeply in love, she doesn't always respond the way romantic comedies and dating advice columns suggest she should. Instead of drawing closer, she might pull away. Instead of becoming more available, she might become mysteriously distant. Instead of reassuring you with words and actions, she might retreat into herself, leaving you to wonder if you've imagined the entire connection. This paradox confuses most men because they operate under the assumption that love should be straightforward. They believe that if someone cares about you, they show it consistently and obviously. They expect love to be a steady flame that burns brighter with time, not a wildfire that sometimes retreats to protect itself from burning everything in its path. But the reality of deep emotion is far more complex than this simple understanding allows. When a woman begins to feel something real, something that threatens to change her life in fundamental ways, her first instinct isn't always to embrace it. The intensity of genuine love can feel overwhelming, like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing that one more step forward means there's no going back. The emotions surge through her with such power that they frighten her, not because they're wrong, but because they're so incredibly right that they force her to confront the possibility of complete vulnerability. This overwhelming sensation doesn't just affect her feelings toward you, it affects her entire sense of self. She might find herself thinking about you at moments when she should be focused on work, or catching herself smiling at memories of your conversations when she's supposed to be having serious discussions with friends. The way you've begun to occupy space in her mind feels foreign and unsettling, especially if she's someone who prides herself on being independent and self-contained. The fear isn't about you specifically, although it might manifest that way. The fear is about what loving you might mean for her sense of autonomy, her carefully constructed life, her ability to make decisions based solely on her own needs and desires. When someone becomes important enough to influence your emotional state, your daily mood, your long-term plans, it can feel like you're losing a part of yourself that you've worked hard to develop and protect. This is where many men make their crucial mistake. They interpret her withdrawal as rejection, her silence as disinterest, her distance as a clear signal that whatever existed between them has died. They respond with increased effort, more texts, more calls, more attempts to recreate the closeness they once shared. They chase her retreating figure with desperation, believing that if they can just say the right thing, do the right gesture, prove their worth sufficiently, she'll come back to the way things were. But this approach misunderstands the fundamental nature of what's happening. She's not retreating because she doesn't care. She's retreating because she cares too much. She's not pulling away because you've become less important. She's pulling away because you've become so important that the prospect frightens her. The intensity of her feelings has created a need for space, not because she wants to end things, but because she needs time to process the magnitude of what she's experiencing. The ancient Stoics recognized this pattern in human behavior, understood that the most powerful emotions often create the strongest urges to flee. That vulnerability can feel so threatening that we'll do almost anything to avoid it, even if it means temporarily abandoning what we most desire. They taught that true strength isn't found in pursuing what runs from us, but in remaining steady and grounded while allowing others the space they need to work through their own internal struggles. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means understanding that some battles are won not through direct confrontation, but through patient endurance and unwavering self-respect. When a woman pulls away because she's overwhelmed by her own feelings, the worst thing you can do is add to that overwhelm by making her feel guilty, pressured, or pursued. Instead, the powerful response is to demonstrate through your actions that you're secure enough in yourself to weather her emotional storm without losing your center. There's another layer to this dynamic that many men fail to recognize. Sometimes a woman's retreat isn't just about her own overwhelming emotions. It's about testing your emotional stability and strength. She wants to see how you'll respond when she's not constantly available, when she's not providing the steady stream of attention and affection you've grown accustomed to. She's observing whether you'll maintain your composure and continue pursuing your own goals, or whether you'll become anxious, needy, and focused entirely on winning back her attention. Isn't manipulation in the cruel sense? It's an unconscious evaluation of your character. She's trying to determine whether you're someone who can be trusted with her emotional vulnerability, someone who will remain strong and stable even when she's not at her best. Women are naturally drawn to men who possess an inner strength that doesn't depend on external validation, who can maintain their sense of self even when the people they care about are struggling with their own internal conflicts. The test isn't announced or deliberate. She's not sitting in her room plotting ways to make you prove your worth. Instead, her natural response to overwhelming emotion creates a situation where your true character is revealed. How you handle her withdrawal, her silence, her apparent lack of interest, demonstrates whether you're someone who can be counted on during difficult times or someone who crumbles the moment things become uncertain. Many men fail this test spectacularly. They interpret her silence as a problem to be solved rather than a space to be respected. They flood her with messages, demanding explanations, reassurances, immediate responses. They make her emotional process about them, turning her need for space into evidence of their own inadequacy. They transform what could be a demonstration of strength into a display of weakness, essentially proving that they can't be trusted to remain stable when she's not actively managing their emotional state. The woman who pulls away because she's afraid of losing control presents a similar challenge. Love, by its very nature, requires a certain amount of surrender. It asks us to care about someone else's well-being as much as our own, to make decisions that consider another person's needs and desires, to accept that our happiness is now partially dependent on someone else's presence in our lives. For someone who has built their identity around self-sufficiency and independence, this can feel like a fundamental threat to who they are. She might find herself checking her phone more often, hoping for your messages. She might discover that her mood is influenced by whether you've had a good day or a difficult one. She might notice that she's begun to factor your preferences into decisions she previously made without consulting anyone. These changes in her behavior and thought patterns can feel like she's losing herself, like she's becoming someone she doesn't recognize or respect. The natural response to this fear is to reassert control by creating distance. If she can prove to herself that she doesn't need you, that she can go days without talking to you, that her happiness doesn't depend on your presence, then she can maintain her sense of self while still enjoying the connection you share. The silence becomes a way of reclaiming her independence, of proving to herself that she's still the autonomous person she was before you became important to her. Again, the temptation for most men is to fight against this dynamic, to try to convince her that she doesn't need to choose between loving you and maintaining her independence. They launch into speeches about how healthy relationships enhance rather than diminish individual identity, how love shouldn't feel like a prison, how they want her to remain the strong, independent woman they fell for in the first place. But these logical arguments miss the point entirely. She's not looking for rational explanations or intellectual reassurances. She's working through an emotional process that requires time and space to resolve. Your attempts to speed up that process or influence its outcome only serve to make her feel more pressured, more overwhelmed, more convinced that being close to you means losing herself. The powerful response is to demonstrate through your actions that you respect her need for independence, that you're not trying to control or possess her, that you're secure enough in yourself to allow her the space she needs to work through her own conflicts. This brings us to another crucial aspect of why women sometimes ignore men they're deeply in love with. In a world where everyone seems to be competing for attention, where social media has turned human connection into a performance, where dating has become a strategic game of who cares less, maintaining some emotional distance can feel like maintaining power. She might pull away, not because she doesn't want to be close to you, but because she's afraid that showing too much interest will put her at a disadvantage. The modern dating landscape has created a perverse dynamic where vulnerability is seen as weakness, where caring too much is considered unattractive, where the person who needs the relationship less is assumed to have more control. In this environment, a woman who finds herself falling deeply in love might retreat as a way of protecting her position, of ensuring that she doesn't become the one who cares more, who needs more, who has more to lose. This is particularly true if she's been hurt before, if she's experienced the pain of loving someone who didn't reciprocate her feelings or who used her emotional investment against her. The scars from previous relationships can make her hypervigilant about protecting herself from similar pain, even when the current situation is completely different. She might pull away, not because she doesn't trust you, but because she doesn't trust her own judgment, her own ability to accurately assess whether it's safe to be vulnerable with you. The silence becomes a form of self-protection, a way of testing whether you'll still be there if she's not constantly available, whether your interest in her is genuine or simply a response to her attention and affection. She wants to know that you're choosing her for who she is, not just because she makes you feel good about yourself. She wants to be sure that your feelings can withstand the natural ups and downs of a real relationship, that you're not just attracted to the easy, comfortable parts of being with her. Sometimes, the withdrawal is about something even more fundamental. She might be testing whether you're truly different from the other men she's known, whether you possess the emotional maturity and strength of character that would make you worthy of her deepest feelings. Every woman has a history of disappointments, relationships that started with promise but ended in pain. Men who seemed wonderful until they revealed their true nature under pressure. When she begins to feel something real for you, those old wounds start to whisper warnings. They remind her of all the times she trusted too quickly, opened her heart too wide, believed in potential that was never realized. The fear isn't irrational. It's based on real experience, real pain, real knowledge of how badly things can go wrong when you care deeply about someone who isn't capable of reciprocating that care appropriately. Her silence becomes a way of observing you without the distraction of constant interaction. She wants to see how you behave when you're not trying to impress her, how you handle uncertainty, how you treat other people when you think she's not watching. She's looking for evidence that you're different, that you possess the qualities that would make it safe to love you completely. This is why the typical male response of increased pursuit and reassurance is so counterproductive. When you chase her, text her repeatedly, demand explanations for her withdrawal, you're demonstrating exactly the kind of behavior that makes her want to maintain her distance. You're showing her that you become anxious and needy when things don't go your way, that you don't respect her boundaries, that you're more concerned with your own comfort than with her emotional well-being. The man who responds to her silence with panic and pursuit is revealing that he's not ready for the kind of deep, mature love she's capable of giving. He's showing her that he's still operating from a place of insecurity and neediness, that he hasn't developed the inner strength and self-respect that would make him a worthy partner for someone who takes love seriously. But the man who responds to her withdrawal with understanding and patience, who continues to live his life purposefully and peacefully while leaving the door open for her return, demonstrates the kind of character that makes a woman feel safe to love completely. He shows her that he's secure enough in himself to weather her emotional storms, that he respects her autonomy and intelligence, that he's not trying to control or possess her but simply offering his authentic self for her consideration. The Stoic approach to this situation isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about understanding that love often requires us to be strong enough to step back, to trust that if something is meant to be, it will unfold naturally without force or coercion. It's about recognizing that your worth as a person and as a partner isn't determined by whether someone else is ready to receive your love, but by how you conduct yourself regardless of their response. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means maintaining your warmth and openness while refusing to compromise your self-respect or emotional stability. It means continuing to pursue your goals, nurture your friendships, develop your interests, and build your life in a way that would be fulfilling whether or not she decides to be part of it. It means being the kind of man who enhances rather than complicates a woman's life, who adds value rather than creating drama. The woman who ignores you because she's deeply in love is wrestling with forces beyond her immediate control. She's trying to reconcile her feelings with her fears, her desires with her need for self-protection, her longing for connection with her commitment to independence. This internal struggle requires time, space, and patience to resolve. Your job isn't to solve her conflicts for her or to rush her through the process. Your job is to remain steady, authentic, and available while respecting her need to work through her own emotions at her own pace. The brutal truth is that some women will work through this process and come back stronger and more committed than ever. Others will decide that the risk is too great, that the potential for pain outweighs the promise of love, that they're not ready for the kind of deep connection that requires genuine vulnerability. You can't control which category she falls into, but you can control how you respond to the uncertainty. The man who becomes unforgettable isn't the one who chases hardest or loves most desperately. It's the one who demonstrates through his actions that he's worthy of deep love, that he possesses the strength and character to handle a woman's most precious emotions with care and respect. He's the one who understands that real love isn't about possession or control, but about creating a space where both people can be their authentic selves without fear of judgment or abandonment. Whether she comes back or not, whether she works through her fears or allows them to keep her at a distance, the right approach remains the same. Continue building a life that reflects your values and aspirations. Continue developing yourself into the kind of man who deserves the love he seeks. Continue treating others with kindness and respect, regardless of how they respond to your efforts. And trust that the woman who is meant to be part of your life will recognize your worth and find the courage to claim her place beside you. Silence that feels like rejection might actually be the sound of someone falling so deeply in love that they need time to find their footing. Your patience and understanding during this process will tell her everything she needs to know about